Good morning! This is the Paradise Unicorn Priestess bringing you day 83 of A Course in Miracles, the Yin translation, where we use female words. This would be March 24th if you are starting at the new year, and this is the introduction to Chapter 11. Either God or the ego is insane. If you will examine the evidence on both sides fairly, you will realize this must be true. Neither God nor the ego proposes a partial thought system. Each is internally consistent, but they are diametrically opposed in all respects, so that partial allegiance is impossible. Remember, too, that their results are as different as their foundations, and their fundamentally irreconcilable natures cannot be reconciled by vacillations between them. Nothing alive is motherless, for life is creation. Therefore, your decision is always an answer to the question, who is my mother? And you will be faithful to the mother you choose. Yet, what would you say to someone who believed this question really involves conflict? If you made the ego, how can the ego have made you? The authority problem is still the only source of conflict because the ego was made out of the wish of God's child to mother her. The ego, then, is nothing more than a delusional system in which you made your own mother. Make no mistake about this. It sounds insane when it is stated with perfect honesty, but the ego never looks on what it does with perfect honesty. Yet that is its insane premise, which is carefully hidden in the dark cornerstone of its thought system. And either the ego, which you made, is your mother, or its whole thought system will not stand. You make by projection, but God creates by extension. The cornerstone of God's creation is you, for her thought system is light. Remember the rays that are there unseen. The more you approach the center of her thought system, the clearer the light becomes. The closer you come to the ego's thought system, the darker and more obscure becomes the way. Yet even the little spark in your mind is enough to lighten it. Bring this light fearlessly with you and bravely hold it up to the foundation of the ego's thought system. Be willing to judge it with perfect honesty. Open the dark cornerstone of terror on which it rests, and bring it out into the light. There you will see that it rested on meaninglessness, and that everything of which you have been afraid was based on nothing. My sister, you are part of God and part of me. When you have at last looked at the ego's foundation without shrinking, you will also have looked upon ours. I come to you from our mother to offer you everything again. Do not refuse it in order to keep a dark cornerstone hidden, for its protection will not save you. I give you the lamp, and I will go with you. You will not take this journey alone. I will lead you to your true mother, who hath need of you as I have. Will you not answer the call of love with joy? Early on in doing A Course in Miracles, my ego was constantly offended by A Course in Miracles. And I'm beginning to get to that delicious point where I no longer find it offensive. I just find it useful. It's like, yeah, of course I'm insane. That's why all the things in my life were not working. It doesn't feel bad to honestly proclaim my own insanity because I have such delicious trust in the balm that I have to connect in with all that is. When I'm connected, I'm not insane, and it's wonderful. Lesson 83, review of lessons 65 through 66. Today let us review these ideas. 65. My only function is the one God gave me. I have no function but the one God gave me. This recognition releases me from all conflict because it means I cannot have conflicting goals. With one purpose only, I am always certain what to do, what to say, and what to think. All doubt must disappear as I acknowledge that my only function is the one God gave me. More specific applications of this idea might take these forms. My perception of this does not change my function. This does not give me a function other than the one God gave me. Let me not use this to justify a function God did not give me. 66. My happiness and my function are one. All things that come from God are one. They come from oneness and must be received as one. Fulfilling my function is my happiness because both come from the same source. And I must learn to recognize what makes me happy if I would find happiness. Some useful forms for specific applications of this idea are: this cannot separate my happiness from my function. The oneness of my happiness and my function remains wholly unaffected by this. Nothing, including this, can justify the illusion of happiness apart from my function. And that completes the lesson for today. I wanted to finish the idea I was saying before about how early on in studying A Course in Miracles, my ego felt constantly offended. Well, not constantly, intermittently offended. There are many beautiful passages that don't feel offensive at all. But being told repeatedly that the thing I identify with is insane, and that when I identify with it, I am insane, it doesn't feel good. And I wanted to say more about that. One of the reasons it doesn't feel good is in this illusion dream that we are all in, there are so many people and systems that would deeply mess with your ego, such that their ego can rule over it. And that is actually just part of the insane ego system. I don't know if you remember the old TV show with the McClouds and the people with the big swords that would kill each other. They were immortal, but when two immortals would fight, one would kill the other and they would absorb the energy of the other. And the phrase that kept coming up is, there can be only one. So even though sometimes there would be a temporary alliance between two of the immortals with swords, they would eventually have to fight and kill each other. And it's such a perfect allegory for the ego's thought system. The ego's thought system is basically, eventually I'm going to take everyone else down and I'm going to be king. I'm going to be God. I'm going to be the one on top because there can be only one. That's the logical conclusion of the ego's insane thought system. And when we read A Course in Miracles and we look at how dark the ego's thought system is and we go, wait a minute, there's been beautiful moments in my life. That hasn't been my entire past. Well, that's because pretty much most of us, if not all of us, vacillate between the two systems, because every time things get really bad and something inside of us cries out, there has to be a better way. Guess what? That's a prayer and it gets answered, and it's answered by love. And so things get better. That's why our lives vacillate between things that are beautiful and things that are really sucky. It's that vacillation between the ego and love. And that's the other thing. A lot of us find the word God extremely triggering. And that's because almost every way that God has been taught has just been a big ego projection. It's what A Course in Miracles says, either the ego or God is insane. And most of the things taught about God are a projection of an insane God, which is just a big giant ego. And those of us with sensitive enough souls have gone, wait a minute, this is really ugly. I don't want to be part of this. And we've backed away and still find the word God really triggering. And so I know I experienced that. If you experience that too, I encourage you to always replace the word God with love. And I have been told that there is a version of A Course in Miracles out there that does just that it never uses the word God. It only uses the word love. Now, that could be a little bit confusing as you read A Course in Miracles, because sometimes it will use the word God and sometimes it will use the word love. And if it's always the same word, it might get a little confusing. But still, I would strongly encourage anyone who finds the God's concept triggering to accept this as an allegory, symbolic, as a way to package these ideas in a way that is familiar to the Western mindset, which has been heavily God-centered, whereas the Eastern mindset never got as hung up on the same authority God setup. There are exceptions, yes. Hinduism has a lot of gods, and they all kind of look like egos too. But you travel far enough east and you get into a system that rose more organically out of animism, where you look at everything as being alive and having a life force in it. And there isn't so much a central God, not as much. But anyway, I digress. I strongly encourage you to place the word love. Love is your mother. You are the child of love. Love is the thought system with which A Course in Miracles is encouraging you to guide your life. Love gave you your function. Your function in this world is love. We are basically learning what love is. Love has been so tied up with the ego and the idea is so twisted and confused. Going back to what it really is, that's the journey. What is love? What does it really mean? All right, I leave those thoughts with you. Happy reviewing. Until next time.